Welcome to the Total Boss Podcast, and I'm your host, Christiano Green, a podcast where we talk about finding fulfillment through self-development, being a leader of your own life, and getting the most out of it as well. Tenacity, originality, talent, authenticity, and being legendary. It's all about living your best life. Hello, all you total bosses out there, and welcome to another episode of the Total Boss Podcast. Now, I am your host, Christiano Green, and I am a mindset coach working with gay men to help them build up their confidence, to help them find fulfillment and freedom and create fortune in all areas of their life. So today on the podcast, I wanted to talk about facing some of the facts that are relevant to us as gay men, and how, the journey of a gay man coming out can come with some struggles. And I thought it would be important for us to share some of these statistics, because the more we know, the more we can feel like maybe we're not alone in some of these areas. So let's jump into some numbers that I think are quite alarming, but also something that I just would like to open a discussion about talking about, because like I said, the more we can remove the stigmas around it, the more we can talk about some of these details, the more, like I said, we can feel like we're part of a community and understand maybe some of the things that we're also going through, and that we are not alone. So first of all, I wanted to talk about bullying. Now, did you know that gay men are 2 times more likely to get bullied than straight people, right? So that means about 40% of gay men will get bullied at some point in their life, and 80% of the bullying will occur in the school. So that's quite alarming numbers, right? That we'll also realize that 20% of people get bullied outside of school, so workplaces, situations like that, and maybe even the home. And so I know for myself growing up that I got bullied severely in school, right? But I also got bullied in the workplace. So for me, it was both areas where I got bullied, which is obviously quite an alarming thing, that we can, get out of school and still feel like we're getting bullied by people who want to bring us down, maybe, who are maybe either intimidated by us or they see us as a threat. And, that's why some of these numbers are quite scary to talk about, right? When it comes to depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, etc., gay men are 3 times more likely to have those than straight people. So that means that 50% of gay men will face depression at some point in their life. And some of them are going to be severe depression, right? Manic depression. There will be 60% of gay men who deal with anxiety, right? And so let's just say that, that's 3 times more likely. That means only 20% of straight people will suffer and 60% of gay men will, right? So how much higher is it? And what are some of the reasons behind some of these statistics, right? That comes down to being 1 in 10 gay men will think about or attempt suicide at some point in their life. And if that's, like I said, 3 times more likely than straight people, that's 10% of gay men, right? Which is crazy numbers to think about when you really, really think about it deeper that down to that, right? Now, when it comes to verbal homophobic abuse, right, being called names out by people, right, 60% of gay men will have some sort of verbal homophobic abuse thrown at them, right? Either that's someone calling them, homophobic slur names, or just treating them poorly, right? It's awful that you can find that 60% of gay men have experienced this, even in this day and age, right? This is just quite alarming, right? Also, 20% of gay men will have some sort of physical homophobic abuse, right? Being beaten up or attacked because they are gay. 20%. Those numbers are absolutely crazy, right? Just because you're gay, 20% of people will get attacked, right? Now, I know in some countries around the world, it's worse, right? Those numbers are probably so much higher in certain countries within Africa or the Middle East, in certain places. And, like I said, even some people are getting murdered and killed, which is absolutely awful to find that because of, who you love and who you're attracted to, that people are going to come at you in such a way, right? Now, it's crazy to think that, just, maybe 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, the number of same-sex couples was, 3 times less, right? Because people back then were even more afraid to be open about it, right? So between sometime in the 90s till today, like this more than tripled the amount of people that have come out and openly said it, right? But the numbers when it comes down to it, when it comes to saying, people who actually identify themselves as gay, only 34% of people who are gay will hide their status when they're trying to access services from, the government or from, applying for mortgages or whatnot. Because again, a lot of people are still afraid that if they put down their status that way, that they will have, limitations put on them when they're applying for these services. So it's pretty scary that even when it comes down to that in countries that, same-sex marriage is legalized, there's still a big fear that people are going to be discriminated against, which is absolutely crazy because, it's 2021, almost 2022, and 34% of gay men are still afraid and will hide their actual identity because there are fears of actually not getting the services that they are applying for. And if they are seen as straight, they feel like they're more likely to get what they need, right? When it comes to, being in the workplace, 39% of gay men will still hide their status to their employers and their co-workers because, again, when it comes to being in the workplace, they feel they might be discriminated against when it comes to getting promotions or moving forward in the company or getting the same treatment as if they were straight. So there's still a big fear around that. And that's, like I said, almost 40% of people hide themselves in the workplace. Now, that could also come down to the fact that they don't want to bring their personal life into the workplace, but it's still crazy numbers that, people are still not feeling open enough to be able to share who they truly are when it comes to people that they spend probably some of the most amount of their time around, When it comes to, going out to social and community events, especially when you put into areas where maybe it's more of a straight event that you're going to, 42% of people still, again, hide their sexuality. And again, that's crazy because, again, you'd think that when you're going to social events, most of the time you might be with people that you know. But again, these are probably events where you're going to something for whatever reason, again, going out into the community, 42% of people hide their sexuality. And again, it's probably really more dependent on what part of the countries that you were living in, because again, depending on where you are, if you're in a big city, you might feel way more comfortable because you've got a higher percentage, a higher population of, gay people. And so the events that you're going to probably filled up with people that are, like you. But again, when you're living in towns that maybe you don't have a lot of people in your community that that are also gay, you're going to these events, maybe isolating yourself, and you are, like I said, a gay man without many or any gay friends. And this could be, again, fear from being judged by other people, or that people may give you some homophobic abuse or bullying, right? Because again, if 40% of gay men get bullied and 60% get verbally homophobic abuse and 20% get physical homophobic abuse, of course there's going to be fears around hiding who you are and showing who you are, right? Because really, these people around here might be saying stuff to you that makes you feel uncomfortable, or you're going to have fears that they are, right? Depending on, like I said, where you are in the country, there is going to be people in certain areas that are way more religious or way more have different, stronger views of sexuality than what you might find in more bigger cities where, like I said, there is a bigger population and probably the viewpoints on people are a lot different. But it makes sense why people are going to hide their status, because there's a lot of fear around it, right? Now, this is probably some of the reasons, or some of the main reasons, why coming out for people is such a difficult process. Because again, the fear of what could happen to you is going to cause you to feel depression. It's going to cause you to have some social anxiety, right? And it's going to cause you to possibly have suicidal thoughts, or even actually go through with it, right? And the fact is that, it should not be happening in this day and age where people are, again, afraid to show who they are, to show up as who they are, just because of their sexuality, and the fact that, again, they are fearful that they could get verbally or physically assaulted or abused, right? Or bullied even, right? And all of these numbers are crazier, especially because, again, being gay is not a problem, right? But again, all of these problems come out because of the way that society treats people who are gay. Not all society. And again, of course, things are getting better, and it's greater for people in certain areas and certain families than others. But this isn't the norm, right? And there are people out there who still struggle with this really, really badly, right? And again, a lot of issues come out from the way that society treats us, which is, again, what I'm trying to get at is that, being gay isn't the problem. It's the way that we're treated because we are gay by certain members of society and certain areas of society. And so when we're trying to come to terms and come to a conversation about having equality isn't, being treated exactly the same way as straight people. It's allowing people to see us for who we are and giving us the same opportunities, right? Not treating us differently in the sense of like, you don't deserve what we have, right? You should see us for who we are and treat us the way that we want to be treated, because that's what true equality is. It's being treated the way that you want to be treated and allowing and knowing that that's okay. Whereas, again, what people think is, as equality is, yep, I've got this and you should have this too because that's what you want and you should get this, right? Well, that's not really what it is. It's we want to live the life that we want to live, and we should be allowed to do this. But as you can see by these numbers, these things are significantly higher than they are for straight people. And like I said, people have to hide their statuses, hide who they are, hide their identity because of the fears that they have around this. And these are the things that we really need to have a discussion about and talk about, because if we can get to a place where we can be open about our status, open about who we are, and actually get to a place where these things aren't a problem, we can imagine that these statistics would reduce, right? Like I said, when it comes down to it, 3 times more likely than to have depression, anxiety, or suicidal, tendencies. That's crazy numbers, right? And it's just because of the problems, again, around what society has treated us and the fears that we have, right? So if you're constantly living in fear, or you have been even abused before, right? Then of course you're going to have some sort of, depression or anxiety, or even, like I said, suicidal thoughts. And that's why, like I said, for gay men, it's such a higher rate that these are the topics that we need to be talking about, right? Because really, in this day and age, up to 11 in 100 people in Australia have some sort of diverse sexual orientation, sex or gender identity that's different to just being straight. So if you look at that, that's almost, what's 11%, right? Of people that are different to the normal straight person, right? So if you look out there, that is a huge number still. And if we're looking at it just outside the wider gay community, and like I said, it's the whole LGBTQIA plus people, 11% of people are LGBTQIA plus, right? Whatever falls under that whole rainbow. So those numbers are high, and that's why I'm saying for us to be talking about these numbers, it's quite crazy that, like I said, people are still dealing with some of these issues. But like I said, we are moving forward, but we have to keep having these conversations, right? Because if we keep having the conversations, other people will understand the issues that we face, and we can move towards finding some of that true equality that we truly deserve to have. Like I said, who we love should not be defined by anybody else, and how we live a life should not be defined by somebody else, and we should not be held back in life because of any of these reasons. So we should be able to get the same opportunities. We should not have to be living in fears. We should not be feeling like we have to hide ourselves, our identity, because of this. So again, here I am just wanting to have a topic, open up the conversation so that we can, like I said, know the statistics. Because again, 1 in 3 gay men will have some sort of substance abuse problem. Abuse, like a addiction problem. When that comes down to, that could be sex, that could be alcohol, could be drugs, could be prescription medication, right? All of these things are, so much more higher again for the gay community because, again, of the issues that people face when it comes to dealing with their identity, coming out, the struggle, right? Like last week I talked about the different stages of coming out, right? And people living in, the denial stage, the anger stage, the bargaining stage, or the depression stage. it's of course is going to cause people to have this here, because a stage of coming out for all gay men is pretty much the depression stage, right? So if you're going through it, and we see how much more people are likely to have long-term depression or actually face proper depression, you're going to realize that these things are higher for people in the gay community, and we need to talk about it. So again, that's really what I wanted to talk about on the podcast today, this week. And I'd love to hear, where you are once you've been hearing about some of these numbers. Again, some of these might be triggering to you. And, I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm just going to say you're welcome, because when you get triggered by something, it's there for you to work through and move forward through. So again, I'd love to hear any feedback, any comments that you have about this episode. Let's keep this conversation going. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., or you can comment even below about what you're thinking about from hearing it today. But I'm going to leave the conversation there. I'd love to continue it, so to get in touch. And always remember that you have got this, and I've got you, and I'll be back next week for another episode of the Total Boss Podcast. Peace out.